It's May, so you know what that means. It's time to pick our next random book of the month. Last month I read Richard Osman's The Man Who Died Twice. Let's find out what this one is. If this is your first time watching one of my randomized TBR videos, what are you doing here? This is video number 5. Go back and watch video number 1 if you want an explanation. I'm done explaining this to you at this point. But for real though, we're gonna start by rolling some D&D dice to determine which of my 3 shelves I'll be looking at, starting with a D4 to just roll, which one of those shelves I'll be looking at. My hope is that I will get maybe a fantasy or a sci-fi book. We haven't done one of those yet. We've done a couple of nonfiction, mystery, a romance, which is crazy because I don't really have any romance. So I'm hoping with all the fantasy I have on this shelf that maybe we'll get this shelf, but let's see. You've got to be kidding me. We're going back to the nonfiction shelf again. Okay. All right. Well, we're running out of books on that shelf, which means that we have to use a D8 because I only have 8 left. So let's roll and see what we get. An 8. Okay, let's go over and count out 8 books from the nonfiction shelf. I just cannot escape this nonfiction shelf. All right, so we've got 8 we need to count through. Let's do 8. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. All right, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. I feel like this is a fairly common book within sort of the writing community. I feel like it's a pretty well-known classic book for learning how to write. I've had it for years and never read it. So maybe this is a good chance for me. I think this is a good time, honestly. I'm just finished up with courses. I'm at a point where I'm not quite, diving into work on my thesis yet. If anything, this month is a perfect time for me to be focusing on sort of writing for pleasure rather than working on a thesis. Because I feel like in a few months from now, I'm not going to feel like writing for pleasure because I'll be so deep in the weeds on that. So we'll see what happens. But all right, it's time for another nonfiction review. Let's do this, guys. This montage is a little different because I'm not only showing my reading experience page by page, but also bird by bird, by including some bird videos I took while reading this book. Bird by Bird is one of those advice books which must have been popular and useful when it came out, but now feels fairly straightforward and obvious. The advice it's given is pretty common writing advice at this point. Let your first draft be bad, let your characters control where the story goes, practice writing daily, make a schedule, get a network of people to read your work and give honest feedback. That being said, despite being obvious at this point, it doesn't hurt to be reminded of these things. This book is said to be part writing advice and part memoir, but I didn't really get the memoir part of it. There are some stories of Lamott's own experiences with writing and publishing, as well as how personal experiences inspired her writing, but that's pretty par for the course when it comes to writing, since writing is so tied to one's experience and life. There are times when this joke actually made me chuckle, and times when the jokes just didn't age well or just didn't land. Overall, this was a positive experience. It reminded me to take my writing slower. It doesn't matter if I've published my writing, and I shouldn't write just to publish. I should write because I love writing. So while this book didn't change my life, it did remind me why I love to write, and how to revitalize that relationship with my pen and paper and the ideas inside my brain. All right, and that is Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. I can see why this book was sort of a staple of writing advice back in the day when it first came out, but to be honest, I don't know if it's something that people necessarily need to be reading now, which I think is understandable why it's not as popular of a writing advice book as it used to be. A lot of the advice is, good advice, and this is a used book, and especially in some of the earlier chapters, there are some quotes that are underlined in this book that clearly were very helpful to whoever had it before me. It's very broad advice. Things like get a writing group, let your first draft be bad, you know, focus on the writing and rather than the publication. But at the same time, despite the fact that this is fairly broad and general and basic writing advice, it is also important to hear because sometimes we forget about that stuff. Sometimes we get so locked into wanting to do so much that we completely forget about the basics, and it's good to be reminded every once in a while, hey, it is okay for your characters to lead the story where it's meant to go. That being said, I also think that despite this being broad, it's also kind of specific. It follows the advice and I guess process that you would expect for a general fiction novel, not necessarily something in genre fiction, which is something I'm really interested in writing. So there's more specific advice that would fit those specific genres that this book isn't really going to be giving. What I will say about this book is that it did give me some of that interest in wanting to get writing again. That chapter that talked about how you should want to write because you love writing, not because you want to get published, that felt like a call out personally, but it did make me want to get back into writing. And I know I said at the beginning of this video that this month was kind of the perfect time for me to get back into writing for pleasure, and then I did not end up doing that at all. So maybe next month I'll be better at writing for pleasure, but it definitely gave me that desire to want to get back into writing again. All right, well, that's it for this month. I will see you all very soon for next month's pick. Well, very soon for me, a month for you guys, where we will see what the next random book will be. Hopefully it won't be another nonfiction book. All right, bye.